Based on the fact that the federal stimulus program has helped stabilize the economy and has kept us from going into a deeper recession, what do you think of the President's comments earlier this week regarding freezing spending?
About what?
Freezing spending.
Yes. First, I separate the two of them. Do we need another jobs bill? Without a question. Why? Ed Rendell is going to have 9% less revenues this year than last year. And when that Senate got the economic stimulus bill from us in the House, it was held hostage. And although I have great respect for Arlen Specter, they removed $100 billion out of that bill, including $1.5 billion that would have closed half of Pennsylvania's budget deficit. We need a jobs bill. It does put money into the $160 billion deficits that we will have our 50 states next year have. And if they have it, more people laid off, and we don't stop at this cycle that we've come to at least prevent from cratering any further. Second, they took out $20 to $30 billion in construction money. We need to put that back in because construction workers were unemployed at 31%, now it's 17%. And we need to put in these tax incentives I mentioned in order to have the job creation by small business. But that's emergency funding, or that comes from the TARP. The President talked about freezing 1/6 of our budget. I don't think that that's the real correct approach that I would take. I do believe we should have, and I voted for it 3 times, where my opponent, as well as my next opponent, Pat Toomey, with Rick Santorum, threw out in 2001 what's called pay-as-you-go. Not another program unless you cut another one. Not a tax decrease like they did, where 53 cents of every dollar went to the millionaires, unless you find revenue somewhere else. President Clinton, under PAYGO, gave us 3 balanced budgets. The Republican leadership took our debt from $4.5 trillion to $11 trillion. So I agree with a PAYGO, pay-as-you-go. But I do believe that then you have to selectively decide what gets cut, what does not. For example, our U.S. military. We are building a good military, but it is less good and more costly if we change our measures by how good we measure ourselves. When I was a 3-star admiral, I advocated not for 316 ships, for 250. But take that money, or some of it, and put it into knowledge-based systems. Unmanned air vehicles that can fly and see the pirates come off Somalia. They link the picture to 1 or 2 ships that have a helicopter go in and interdict them. So there is a myriad of ways, besides just freezing 1/6 of our budget, that we can go about having the monies attendant to having our deficit reduced. Close some of those tax loopholes, for example, that ship jobs overseas.
What do you think of the President's comments earlier this week about freezing spending for next year?
I want to examine the fine print before making a commitment on my vote. When the President says he's going to exclude the military and is going to focus only on non-defense discretionary, I want to see exactly what is going to happen with respect to health and education. Without good health, you can't do anything. And without a good education, you can't do much. So I want to see exactly where it comes down. And I'm apprehensive about spending $1 trillion a year in Afghanistan. That's what it costs. I've taken the public position opposed to putting 30,000 additional troops in Afghanistan. Listen, we have to do whatever it takes to defeat al-Qaeda because they're out to annihilate us. But if al-Qaeda can organize as well from Yemen or Somalia or somewhere else, why fight in Afghanistan where no one has succeeded? Not the Brits, not the Soviets, not anyone. And earlier this month, I was in Afghanistan, talking to the generals and talking to Karzai. And each day that passes, Karzai proves to be a less reliable ally. He can't get a cabinet confirmed. His key officials are allegedly involved in corruption in the narcotics trade. and the Pakistanis are not helping much. I had occasion to talk to President Musharraf in Islamabad 18 months ago, and we had given Pakistan $10 billion to fight al-Qaeda and the Taliban, and they hadn't used the money for where it was supposed to go. And I challenged President Musharraf on it, and he told me, in effect, it was none of my business. And I said, hey, wait a minute, I'm an appropriator. I help you get that money. So before I'm prepared to put $1 trillion into Afghanistan, I'd rather see us move ahead with some of the activities now underway to deal with the tribal leaders and to try to get them to join Karzai and to reject the Taliban. But I'm not prepared on this date of the record to accept an unlimited military if it's going to mean cutting education, health care, and environmental protection.